When I met Stephen the first time, he had this punky look. He was he had bracelets with the spikes, and sometimes he wore the gloves with the fingers cut off, and you know, the punky look, and trying to fit in. 6th grade, trying to figure out who in the world he was, and but I was excited about reaching into his life and meeting him.
It was in middle school. He was Mr. Lunch Lady to everybody, and he just kind of helped out, and that's how I met him originally.
So I was excited to get to know Stephen because I knew his family, and I knew they had some problems.
Jeff and I were having problems. Substance abuse, alcohol. Of course, Stephen, he could feel all that.
And Stephen had anger issues that came out more as he got into his teen years.
But he didn't want to talk about where the anger was coming from, so when he tried to talk to Stephen, he got shut out. He was starting to go into himself and putting up walls, and it was very sad to watch.
Me and my mom used to argue a lot. I got set off pretty easy. I was just a punk kid who got in fights and stuff. Well, at that time, Steve was like, I looked up to him more than anybody. I just saw him, and then he was close to God and everything, and like for a while I kind of think I thought of him as my mentor and stuff, and we just talked about like what was going on in my life.
So I was excited to invite him to come to Leaders Club. Leaders Club's a way we get to handpick 12 kids. We work with the schools. It's a neat partnership, and they're glad that we can take some kids that just having troubles at home, having troubles in their life, not fitting in a social group, and we can put them into a club and just love on them, walk alongside them, help them to learn some values and some goals, and hopefully get to know God, get healed maybe from their past where they've been hurt, and become leaders themselves. We always have prayer time at Leaders Club, and one of Stephen's main prayers was for his mom and dad.
Although I cleaned up my act and put the drugs down and put the alcohol down, Jeff continued.
Which ultimately led to 2 separations and finally a divorce notice.
So right before Leaders Club, I get a call from Tracy, Stephen's mom, and she says, I want you to hold Stephen. Can you spend time with him afterwards? I said, what's going on? She said, well, I've got my family over, we're going to serve Jeff with papers, divorce papers, and we're putting him out. So yeah, I can keep Stephen if you think that's what's best. Yeah, that's what I do. I don't want him in the middle of this. So we did that.
That was the dark days.
After Leaders Club that day, me and Stephen went out. I think we grabbed a burger, and we just talked. Just asked a lot of questions and how he was doing, and I didn't let him know what was up or anything because it wasn't my place. But we talked about, you know, his past, his hurts, his pains, and it was a good time together.
The moment Jeff was served with the papers, I think it hit him. We went through it for the next 10 days, and then I got a call from Steve Newland, and I was crying. It was the first time somebody had taken a moment to talk to me, and he asked me if I'd give it one more shot, if we would meet with Pastor Ken.
Steve, when like everything was going on, like all the bad stuff, my parents getting divorced and stuff, Steve just kind of helped me walk through it, and he helped me like cope with it.
One of the things that I love about working with Youth for Christ is we're a parachurch. We're not a church, and we can't survive without the church. And this Leaders Club is the best scenario. It's built into the foundation that as soon as we get into a kid's and a family's lives, as fast as we can, we plug them into a pastor, into a church.
Steve Newland gives me a call, and he had told me about this young couple that were struggling in their marriage, and said, could you see him? So I had a chance to meet Jeff and Tracy. They sat here at this table in my office, and we talked for several hours.
The first time we came to KMC, I liked it. I mean, everybody was really friendly, and my parents liked it because, I mean, we came back.
And then we finally got him plugged in with the youth group here, and once he started meeting these kids, he couldn't get enough of it.
I started connecting to God like almost right away. I just started getting that first connection with God and stuff. They ended up staying together when we started going to the church.
I do remember a time when I was sitting in my car and Stephen just was all excited that his prayers were answered.
I was baptized last year, and this year, the last baptism that happened with my church, I prayed and dunked my cousin in the water, and it was really cool.
We've seen him grow immensely in our youth program, and seeing him get pretty excited about really loving God and loving others. And it's really pretty cool when you see a teenager taking that lead. We know there have been marked differences in the home because of Christ.
Starting trying to get a Bible study started at Comstock High School for the kids after school.
My favorite part is to reach out, because I feel like a special op agent going behind enemy lines to get the wounded, and I pick them up and give them some triage, do some heart work on them, get them breathing again, and get them back to a team that can love them and take care of them, and it's like a hospital, and then go back and do it again. The walk, you know, when a kid starts to figure out who he is in Christ, who God created him to be, and he gets healed. He's not that hurt kid. He's not that defensive kid. He's not that I'm angry kid. He's not that, you know, self-survival kid. He starts to not survive but thrive in God and who God has made him to be, and he starts to figure that out. This never-ending cycle that I love is that Stephen now doesn't need me very much, but he's rooted and grounded in the church. He's going into the high schools. At church, he's got 3 or 4 friends sitting around him from school. You know, I love to sit back and watch as kids get sent out to do the same thing.
We thank God for sending lunchroom lady Steve to my son back in 6th grade, because that was the beginning. That was my son's defining moment with his walk with Christ.
The tough thing is we're just scratching the surface. There's hundreds of thousands of Stephens right here in Kalamazoo area, and we need an army.